Hi and welcome to Federal Bank Let's Talk. Toonz is South Asia's most admired animation studio. It has an impressive worldwide client list with names such as BBC, Cartoon Network, Disney. Here we are at the Toonz campus in Technopark, and with me, the CEO of Toonz, Mr. P.Jayakumar. Let's talk. Toonz is a flag bearer of the Indian animation industry.
Yes.
You have made us proud by putting Kerala on the global animation map. But in simple terms, so that laymen like me understand, what is it that actually happens on the floor of your state-of-the-art studio here in Technopark?
Right. We basically give life to characters. That is, in a simple statement, that is what we do. When people see a cartoon film, they normally don't realize how labor-intensive this process is. If you are producing a 90-minute feature film, normally around 450 to 500 people, basically work together on this project. It's a very, very collaborative film process where each and every scene will be done by different artists. So the communication between these artists are extremely key for the whole process.
You were talking about your workforce. You said 400
Yes.
to 500 people work on one single project.
Yes.
How do you manage such a creative group?
I think it is, that's a very, very good question,
Thank you.
I mean, especially, I have a finance background, and how an accountant or a finance guy basically responds. We expect very sophisticated behavior from people, right? So when I basically moved my career from government, I was the finance officer in Water Authority. And when I actually joined here, initial years were very tough. But I think, over a period of time, I really accustomed to their behavior. And I believe I have changed myself in a way that I understand their feelings and I understand their behavioral pattern.
And you are able to bring out the best in them.
Yes, and I think at the end of the day, there is a small section of people who basically see this as a job. But a vast majority of the staff members are very passionate about it. I have engineers, mechanical engineers, chemical engineers, electrical engineers working in our field. They are, some of the best in their field. So they are here, and I have doctors here, right, who are very interested in this creative field. And when people are passionate about it, they definitely add an additional dimension to whatever product they bring out.
Right. In our part of the country, how many people really know about the scope of visual creativity as a career option?
When we started this studio, we hired around 30-40 people from various parts of the country as animators, and we brought them here. And our first client was Cartoon Network Hong Kong, and we started the project. And within 15 days, we realized that the people we hired don't have the skill sets to produce an international quality, kind of production. So what we have done is, and we realized that the problem is, it is not basically about the talent of people. And I can, now 13 years of in this field, I can very proudly say that our talent is probably one of the best in the world. Okay, so we have no problem with regard to the talent and the fundamentals. The real problem is the exposure. Okay, they don't have an international exposure. If you really look at US, where the animation films are very, very successful, they produce $200-300 million worth of films and make $1 billion worth of revenues out of it. Okay, it's a very, very matured market, but it has a 60-year history of animation. When it really comes to India, it's a very kind of probably a 10-year history.
A nascent.
It's a very, very nascent stage. So they don't have that exposure. So what we have done is we brought in people from US, Australia, Korea, Philippines, a lot of Filipinos. And at some point in time, from between 1999 and 2002, we had around 50 expatriate staff working at our facility, which is like a bomb from a financing point of view, because you are burning millions of dollars. All these people are in dollar salaries in your payroll, and you are an outsourcing hub where the fundamental business is
cost effective.
Yeah, correct. Leveraging your cost benefit, thing. Then those 2-3 years we were basically burning money. Okay, but I think 12-13 years back, when I really look back, I think that is the strategy which really made the presence of Toonz felt in the international marketplace, because the people who are fundamentally strong but they don't have the exposure were able to train under these masters, and that exposure has really made them.
And you have an academy now, Toonz
Yes.
Academy.
That is also an interesting genesis of the academy. But in 2001-2002, suddenly there was a big hype about animation all over India. So studios started mushrooming in various parts of the country. And for all of the new studios, Toonz is the perfect poaching ground.
Okay.
Because anybody can get very qualified manpower from here. So we lost a lot of people and we felt the pinch. So we realized that two issues. One is we need our own feeder. We need to make sure that we get the right kind of people. Second is, we also realized that there is a big problem why people are poaching from Toonz. Because there is really a big gap between the demand and supply. The people are in high demand, supply is very less. So we decided to start the academy. And academy is in its 8th year. It's doing great. In 2004, West Bengal government asked us to set up a shop in West Bengal, where the government has put up all the investments. We have gone there. It was a total virgin market. There was no animation training facilities. There was no animation studios. We gone there. We established the facility. Even today, that's probably one of the biggest self-sustained animation academy in the country.
You started off as an animation
outsourcing
center,
yes.
And you have moved to being a end-to-end provider of animation services, and that in a span of 12 years, and that is a huge success story.
Correct.
So will you share with us the key highlights on that journey?
Sure. Two absolutes in this business is, one is communication, and second is creativity. So because there is a problem in communication, we still have an edge. Have an edge. But Eastern European countries now are posing a major threat. So one, it is a fundamental realization that if you just be in the service business, you will not be able to compete with the world. Okay, because we are not competing with another Indian studio. We are competing with a Chinese studio. We are competing with an Indonesian studio. We are competing with a Taiwanese studio. So unless you become very competitive, the margins are less, and also this is not a brick and mortar operation, right? The eyes of the directors are very subjective.
Right.
Something I can see and I say, wow, you can say, no, it's not good.
Right.
It really very whims and fancies of the director.
You need to touch the heart of your audience.
Plus the director, and from our point of view, our clients' technical and creative qualities are determined by the director. So if you have a kind of a tough director, your margins are gone.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So you are already making a loss. So the margins are very less. So we need to really find a way to be alive in this business. That's number one. Number two, let's take Tom and Jerry as an example. It produced 40-50 years back. It's still watched.
We have people glued to the sets.
Correct, and loved by it, right? Animation has a big advantage over live films, which is a longer shelf life.
Right.
Okay, because
the characters don't grow old.
Correct. It can, and it also build up a lot of value. Lion King, which was produced at a very small amount of money, it's a $3 billion franchise today. So if you are lucky, okay, you need to be, and this is again in financial terms, I would say a portfolio approach. You produce 10 films.
Don't put all your eggs in one
basket. You produce 10 films, probably you have a 4 miss and 3-4 will be average, but you will have 2 hits.
How is it that you choose your stories?
Yes. I think we have 2 basic streams of products. One is international products which is the bread and butter of our business, and two is Indian projects. International projects is easy. Basically, what we do is we also, because we are in India, our sensitivities are slightly different from that of international audience. We always partner with, very high profile partners, internationally. By associating with this kind of very high profile content partners across the globe over a period of time, now we also know what works and what doesn't work. But still we do that, number one. Number two, we also basically look at certain brands. For example, we have produced a TV series called Wolverine and X-Men, which came out of Marvel Comics. Marvel Comics, they produce Spider-Man, right? So these are brands, you take risk which never, cheat you. The cost-wise, this is a total difference. If you produce a half an hour live show, how much you spent? 50,000, 5 lakhs, probably 10 lakhs. You produce half an hour animation, minimum is 50 lakhs. You produce an international show, 1.5 crore or plus.
It's big money that
this big money we are talking about. So if you spend, let us say the Wolverine and X-Men, the money we spend is $10.4 million. In today's value, it is 55 crore. It's as good as 10 movies, right? So it's a TV series I'm talking about. So when you put this kind of money at risk, you just need to really make sure that you are covering the downside risk. So that is what we do. We go after brands. We recently produced a film which was written by the second world's biggest author called R.L. Stein. We produced a movie called Mostly Ghostly, and which was picked up by Disney Channel US, which is a live movie. So we basically, go after events or characters or books or, comic characters, which is, kind of widely known, so that we are not taking undue risk because we are investing our own money.
What about the Indian market?
I'm very proud to say that we are the first people who had the courage to do something for the Indian market for the first time. We produced Tenali Raman. This is the first.
Here we have him with us.
Tenali Raman, yes. This is the first animated television series for the Indian market.
Produced by an
Indian company. This was a huge hit from an audience perspective because it's the first time they see an Indian character on the air. Even today, all the cartoon channels, 95% of their content is foreign content.
Right.
Okay, only 5% is Indian content because they can't afford to produce Indian content because of the cost aspect of it. Okay, so we have gone ahead. We learned a lesson from it. Okay. The lesson is that it is great. It is, all of us guys are passionate about India. We are an Indian company. We wanted to do something for India. It's a huge financial mistake. Even today, after 10 years, we haven't recouped our money back on Tanada. So we realized that we need to come up with a different business model in order for us to come up with Indian subject. So we developed a technology which is not really animation, I would say, which is, I would say, motion comics technology, where we limit Hanuman to a certain extent, but Shiva. Okay. If you really look at Tales of Shiva, if you really look at those things, not too many animation. It's a kind of technique which I wouldn't say that we have invented it. Real inventors are Japanese. So Japanese developed a technique which is called anime. They use only 4,000 drawings per half an hour. Okay. So what they do is they just used action poses and strong layouts, and they create a very effective kind of thing. Today, 95% of what Japanese make is for their own industry. So they created a huge industry. So we wanted to do something on that. So we were successful about that. And also, what happened over a period of time is the market also matured a little bit. Today, cartoon channels are willing to pay probably 10 times high than that of they pay to us on Tenali Raman. Okay, so industry is maturing. In between, we also had success on Hanuman as a feature film. Right. This is also an experimentation. Nobody have ever done an animated feature film on Indian thing. So we produced with Hanuman. Hanuman was a success. We were able to not only recoup our money, we were able to make profit on it. So that really gave us a thing that yes, there is money to be made from India. I think my view is that India is the world's largest kids population. 300 million kids, okay, in India. So I have a huge belief in India, okay. So what we are now doing is we are very aggressively looking at Indian market. In the last 1 year, we produced probably 5 or 6 different series and movies. We did a cricket series with Disney. We have done 3 movies with Cartoon Network. We are producing a series with Nickelodeon. We are producing a very big animated movie project with Hrithik Roshan and Filmcraft. This is based on Krish. We are producing 3 TV series. So suddenly, this becoming a very important part of our business, and we believe in it. And I think what we are also seeing is, like I mentioned earlier, the shelf life. So now Tenali Raman, we are now selling it 2nd time and 3rd time to various others. So if you create, this is a real estate. If you create this real estate in a proper way, in a nice way, I think, audiences will be there, and you can actually make money in perpetuity. So this is going to be a big cash cow for us.
You started off as a finance manager, moved on to being a chief financial officer, and then the CEO of the company.
Correct.
So this is a different journey.
Sure.
So will you share your experiences, your personal experiences on that journey?
Sure. I was, it's very interesting. I'm a physics graduate, BSc Physics. That's how it started. And I took a professional course in chartered accountancy. I was lucky in terms of having a gentleman called Mr. Neelakanta Iyer. He was my CA, because those days you need to do the articleship, during the time of your studies. So at that point in time, he was one of the very prominent chartered accountant, and he was having very high profile clients and with very little staff. The very next day I completed my course, I joined the Water Authority. So it was kind of, and as the finance officer. And I was part of a separate unit called socio-economic unit, which was basically doing the World Bank and bilateral funding, which is funding from Netherlands government and Danish government and the World Bank and all. So it's a special section which basically into sanitation and water supply. So this was the thing. So I was able to, though it was under a government kind of a setup, there was some element of it which was non-governmental to it, because it was, the atmosphere was much more very conducive. So I was able to kind of get involved in lot of other aspects of the
project
activity. 99, I have seen an ad in the paper which basically called for a finance officer, and I met with a gentleman called Mr. Menon. Mr. Menon is the guy who conceived the idea of setting up this studio in Toonz. He incidentally is the one who also set up UST Global.
Oh, really?
So yes, he's the. I think more than anything, I was moved with his personal philosophy. He believed that by providing job opportunities to people, he's doing a big social engineering.
Right.
And I can understand now, because when we started, artists, the maximum salary they can get is probably 3,000, 4,000. The big job is, probably a couple of media companies here hire them as staff cartoonist, or most of the time, they need to wait for an election to get, drawn boards and, stuff like that. There was not kind of opportunities.
So much talent is available.
Correct. But now I see the life changes, and not only the life changes in their life, the changes in their families, and so I really understand that. So I decided to join, despite huge problems, because I was kind of recently married at that point in time. My wife, my family was dead against in me, kind of resigning from a government job, and getting into a private job. And those days, Technopark is also not very well known. So it was, it was not an easy transformation for me to, kind of get into it. But I
took the risk.
I took the risk,
and it paid.
Definitely paid. I think it was probably one of the, it was a challenging decision at that point in time.
You said at Toonz you have doctors, you have engineers, you are a chartered accountant.
Sure.
So what would you like to say to people who are from traditional, let's say who follow traditional careers
Yes.
and want to break free.
Yeah. My finance background had a lot of value.
Right.
Because when you really greenlight a film, okay, two things, okay. One is you need to finish the film within the budget. You cannot, kind of cross the budget. You need to finish the film on time. And creative people, they are perfectionists. They wanted to, they will never be happy for the work they have done. They wanted to improve upon. There should be somebody who need to put their foot down and say, enough is enough. Right? There is a role for various people. For example, software engineers, we have a process called rigging, which is totally of software. Animation has a huge application on medical field called medical animation.
Right.
But animation has a huge use in simulation in defense. When you really spend, multi-billion dollars of missile technology and all, you cannot experiment a missile. You do simulation in computers.
Right. You have worked your way to the top, which is difficult.
Sure.
But keeping yourself at the top, how difficult is that?
I think when you are in the higher orbit, keeping there is the biggest challenge. I think for me, luckily, at every stage, the people whom I have worked helped me a lot. Probably it is just because of my personality, and I think when I really reach the CEO position, then it is all about. For me, it is a huge responsibility.
Right.
For me, I think we are talking about 400, 500 people, and their families are depending on us. So for me, I need to succeed. I need to succeed for their benefit. I need to succeed for the common benefit of the company.
I'm sure there are a lot of people who are drawn by the glamour and glitter of animation. And then later on they realize how tough it is.
Yes.
Do you have people like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Without really understanding, one, what is it all about and what are the basic skills required for it. Two, is there any good institutes there? Third, what do they want to become, right? There are a lot of people who come to us and who go for other institutes, and I would say around 50% of the people will never make it to animators. That this is not an 8-hour job. When it comes to real time, I have people here, sleep here literally, because you can't say that, okay, I will only work 8 hours, because this is a very specific kind of thing, and at sometimes you have no job.
Being the person who manages such a crowd, I'm sure that. Is there a meeting on your personal life?
I think so.
Okay.
I seriously always think that I'm missing some finest thing in my life, which is a family. But I think my family is a good family. My wife is Bindu. She has been a teacher. When I married her, she quit her job for rearing kids, and then once the kids started going to school, she wanted to do something. So I took a franchisee of a courier company called Professional Couriers. So she's running a franchisee of that. Two kids, Anand and Abhinant, both are at Christnagar School. Elder one is at 9th and younger one is at 7th. I think wherever possible, I spend quality time. Whatever time I spend with them, I make sure that it is quality time. So we are okay. It's not the ideal world, but I think I have done justice to the extent I can.
Okay. We have a small rapid fire round, quick answers to quick questions.
Sure.
Okay. Right. So here's the first one. One word that best describes you.
Understanding.
Okay. What would set your pulse racing?
Gossip.
The food that would break your strictest diet.
Ice cream.
What gives you the most happiness at work?
If I get the desired result, what I aim for.
Your birthday?
1st of August.
Okay. What turns you off?
Negative resources, negative habits, negative people.
One greatest joy in your personal life?
I think my family.
Okay. My world. What does that bring to mind?
It's very difficult to answer. My world is between Toonz and my family.
Okay.
It's my world.
Your favorite cartoon character?
Tom and Jerry.
Okay. Your sons?
Absolutely, same.
Okay. Thank you for making time for us and all those valuable insights. Here is a small token of appreciation.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And these are chocolates for your sons.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.